This is Paul's prayer in the first chapter of Philippians. His prayer is that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and all discernment, so that you may approve what is excellent, and so be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. This is Paul's prayer for the church at Philippi. It's so important in reminding us of what we are to be about as a church. Paul longed for these things to be true of the Philippian church, and consequently the same is true for us. It's what Christ longs for us at St. Leonard's and St. Peter's. Firstly, that our love might abound in knowledge and discernment, or depth of insight, or wisdom. And that coupling is so important, because with only knowledge we become cold, we become harsh and legalistic, not great to have around. With only love, as a sense of a warm feeling and perhaps undefined, we end up floating off into the unknown, untethered by the truth of Jesus. And eventually that kind of love becomes unloving. But love abounding in knowledge and wisdom is potent. It can cope with discipline. It can weather tough seasons in life, for it understands that love is more than mere feelings, but about refining and growing and maturing, and produces something really good. And we know, actually, from growing in our physical life, that is sometimes painful. But remember, with Jesus, it is all about love, but it's a love with substance, a love that's strong enough to say no to our destructive desires. It's a love that is totally for us, even though sometimes it is contrary to our own will. It's a love that believes in us and is also realistic. It's a love that is determined that what God has begun in us, as Paul has already mentioned in his letter, what God has already begun, he will bring to completion. It's the kind of love that we receive from Christ, and it's the kind of love that Paul prays will mark the church. But why? What is the purpose of this love abounding with wisdom and discernment? Well, Paul makes it clear, so that you may discern what is good, what is excellent, what is virtuous. And the idea here is not principally about wise decisions about what to do about this strategy or that strategy in our own lives or in the life of the church, but it's about the development of godly Christ-like character. For he goes on, so that you may be pure and blameless at the day of Christ. It's about not what we achieve and do, but what we are becoming. Paul's ambition is that our lives are on a trajectory, not necessarily of career success or financial security or popularity in the community or even political influence, but towards God's vision for humanity, for us, in our inner being, in our responses to one another, in our hearts, in our lived out through our words and deeds. That's the thing around which everything else rotates. The question we are asked is not, do you want to take this new job or opportunity or potential move? They may be all absolutely fine options laid out before us as far as God is concerned. His concern is that we undertake that job, that opportunity, that potential life change in a way that imitates and honours Jesus. Because he's much more interested in preparing us for the day of Christ, as Paul puts it, when we will rule with Christ. And he's interested in that because he wants us ready for that day, for all that he has for us in new creation, that we might be moving beyond apprenticeship to Christ to reigning alongside Christ. It's a dizzying prospect, but that's what he's doing in our lives. And finally, this work of love abounding in knowledge and insight and producing Christ-like virtues and character in each of us will then, says Paul, produce the fruit of righteousness. It's all a fruit-producing process within and without. And that, after all, is what we've been called to, isn't it? I have called you, says Jesus, that you might go and bear fruit. This is God's growth strategy. These are things we are called to attend to in our lives. This is what Paul prays for. This is what I am praying for. And I invite you to join with me at St. Leonard's and St. Peter's in praying this prayer of Paul for ourselves. And all of this for the praise and glory of Jesus, who loved us and gave himself for us. Amen.